All right, everybody, welcome to episode 56 of In the Flat Podcast. I'm your host, Tony Kill, joined this week by Jordan Schultz. So this week, we're obviously coming to you Sunday, so we're going to, break down some of the exciting games that happened in yesterday's slate of games. I would say this one was maybe not the most exciting slate of games, but it was interesting as it had maybe some surprising results, some surprising teams not show up. Maybe some surprising losses, but there are some teams that just play like we thought they were going to play. So let's dive in. Let's take a step back first. I look at Thursday. In this case, you guys missed it. We had a couple games on Thursday. First, I would say they're probably one of the uglier games of the weekend, but North Carolina State beating Virginia Tech 22-21. North Carolina State is having to go up this season without Leary, their starting quarterback. So MJ Morris stepped in, had 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, played pretty well. They also had another quarterback come in and play some snaps, and Jack Chambers, who's I would say, probably more of a rushing quarterback, it seems. But they ended up looking pretty well. This is an ugly game. I think it was 3-0 North Carolina State at halftime, and then the offense came alive in the third quarter for both teams. And then North Carolina State kind of shut them down defensively in the fourth quarter and kind of pulled away here with a 22-21 win. So, any thoughts here? I know this is probably one of the uglier games, Jordan, but any thoughts there on North Carolina State? Do you are they going to be able to kind of make it through here without Leary, or do you kind of see this one slowly falling off the wheels falling off here?
I mean, their stretch of games right now. They have Wake Forest. If we're going to talk about it a little bit, but they lost, this week, and they just looked kind of bad. Wake Forest did. But other than that, Louisville looked really good this week. So that's a scary game. So I could see them losing the next three, or not next three, but three of the last four games they played because they played North Carolina to end the season.
Yeah.
But they played Boston College in there, so that should be an easy win, especially after they lost to UConn this week. So I could
Yeah.
see them still dropping the next three games and finishing, with the 5 losses.
Yeah. Yeah, so sad. I mean, coming in, I think we were kind of hyping them up as could this be the year they kind of make a run for the ACC, but things are just not happening the way they wanted to. So we hopefully they can turn around and maybe their quarterback Morrison Chambers, one of them will kind of take the reins here the last few weeks. The other game I thought was an exciting game to watch. Utah beating Washington State 21-17, and it wasn't just the score, but Utah was out without Cam Rising, who kind of pulled himself out of the game because he just didn't feel right health wise, and they were also missing their top running back. So they came into this game really shorthanded, but they were able to pull this game out. Bryson Barnes had a really good first start, 175 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and they were able to win this tough game at Washington State. And Washington State, the team I was rooting on at the beginning of the season, they've slowly
You,
starting to revert back to old Washington State form. So
you need to stop picking teams before the
I
season
do, man.
starts.
I'm like jinxing teams, and I feel bad for them. But yeah, but Utah hang on for this one, 21-17. So they still kind of control their own destiny to win the Pac-12. So what do you think of Utah here?
I think Utah still looks good, even without Cam Rising, their star quarterback. Also, I don't know if it's Utah looking good or is it Washington State just falling off the bus. Lost the last
It's
four of
Utah.
their
Utah.
lost the last 4 games. Started off strong and lost the last 4 games. But I think Utah has a good quarterback that they have after Cam Rising leaves. Um, they have a strong defense. They've had a strong defense. So I could see them making a play for the Pac-12, but I just don't think they can handle Oregon right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Oregon's a tough. Oregon's it's got to run on all cylinders. We'll talk about Oregon a little bit later in our game against California, but yeah, it's going to be a tough game for them. I think USC, Utah and Oregon are the top of the crop there, and we'll see who kind of works out there, who's going to end up being in the championship game. But if Utah wins out, they're going to steal that spot for USC and end up playing Oregon. So we'll see if that is how it works out. All right. Next up, let's talk about the podcast's favorite team. That's Notre Dame. I believe me and you did predict a couple touchdown victory from Notre Dame, and that's what they did. They won by 17. May not be the most prettiest of fashion offensively, but their defense looked really good. The special teams looked good. Rushing attack again looked good. With they had over 200 yards rushing again. So really dominant performance by Notre Dame over Syracuse. Syracuse just I know Schrader there only played the first half, but he even in the first half didn't look good. Their backup looked much better than him, honestly. I don't know why they don't start the backup Rio Wilson. He used to play at Florida. He was a high rated 4-star. I mean, I would give him a shot at this point. But yeah, Syracuse kind of just didn't look like they had been looking the first part of the year. And I think part of that is they finally started to play some competition. They played Clemson, who I think really showed a blueprint of how you beat this team. You rush it right down their throat and beat them that way, and that's what Notre Dame did. So, any thoughts on the Irish here, Jordan?
Um, like you already said, their offense. I don't know about Notre Dame's offense. They're kind of sketch for me. Their defense looked really good. Their transfer corner or safety with the pick six, the first play of the game, they scored within 7 minutes or 7 seconds. That was huge. I think their defense has really picked it up, and I think they're finally getting healthy and back to full, strength. And that's been Notre Dame's bread and butter the last couple years. Is their defense has been so dominant. Their defense is turnovers and front lines really good. With Syracuse, I don't know what it is. They just don't like to run the ball with arguably one of the best running backs from last year.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Tucker,
I just understand.
doesn't even have 1,000 yards rushing this year. If looking at the thing, he has 3 games with over 100 yards, and one of them was 232 yards. So I don't know why you wouldn't run the ball with him more. He's averaging 5.2 yards a carry all game. So I just don't know if he's hurt or whatnot. And I think Syracuse has really stepped away from their run game a lot, in the last couple weeks, and it's really showing. And Notre Dame exploited that with being able to stop the run with their front line.
Yep. Yeah, I think this the Lions is a game that Syracuse defense has been playing really well. They're one of the top defenses, but I think that they're really undersized defensive line, and so Notre Dame's offensive line really just overpowered them on the running side. Their defensive line overpowered their offensive line, so it all comes down to lines. If you win both of those line battles, there's not going to be much of a game, and it wasn't. So, good win for Notre Dame going into Clemson next week. As me and Jordan will be there to hopefully watch an upset next week, but we'll see. All right. Next up, Ohio State and Penn State. This is one of probably the top matchup of the week. Honestly, game was a lot closer. I mean, the score may say they won by 13, but this game was a lot closer than I thought it would be. In the fourth quarter, this was a 1-point game, and maybe less, but maybe more than that. But Penn State was winning for majority of the second, third quarter going into the fourth, and then Ohio State finally retook the lead, and then Sean Clifford continued to make his Sean Clifford-like mistakes. 3 interceptions yesterday. You just can't do that. And they just they made those mistakes that have cost them a lot of points in that second half. Honestly, if they would have had any more consistency at the quarterback position, they probably would have won this game against Ohio State. But they did it. They lost by 13. So, what are your thoughts here, Jordan?
You hit it right on the head right there. Quarterback. I think it's always been the biggest problem for Penn State. When Saquon Barkley was there, they can only run the ball. You can stop the run or at least score, go toe-to-toe with scoring against them. You can outwin. You can win them. You can beat them just on score-wise alone, just because they run the ball so much. But, Sean Clifford, 3 interceptions. Looking at the play-by-play, he had the 1 interception was for a touchdown, or after the interception, it resulted in a touchdown. He threw a pick 6 right after Ohio State scored a touchdown. So that, it's just, I think the big pressure games, he just doesn't have it in him. And I think, like you said, if they had a quarterback, they definitely they would have won this game. I think they would have won this game by 14 or 21. I think they had a better team early on, but like I said, Sean Clifford throwing interceptions doesn't really help them. And then you have, just Franklin. He's 1-10 against ranked opponents, and I think the top 10. And they were at home. I think they need to figure out something. I don't know what it is, but quarterback is the biggest question mark for me for Penn State.
Penn State reminds me a lot of Notre Dame, to be honest, and it's because both teams have have had solid defenses, has had solid running backs, but just can't figure out that quarterback position. And I don't know why. They're usually a highly ranked team. They usually have highly ranked recruits. I don't know if this is picking the wrong quarterback recruit or what it is, but they need a change at the quarterback position. They need someone that can actually win the game, not like manage the game. So until they get that, I think they're going to continue to have results like this. They'll win against teams they should, and then they'll lose against the tougher opponents that match up to them. So we'll see if they get that quarterback in the next couple of years. I did want to call out though on the defense for Ohio State. J, JT Tulamaloyello, I probably destroyed his name, but he had 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries. So he was all over the field. It really made a you know spark there on that defensive side. I think ended up winning this game for that Ohio State defense. So shout out to him on that
So
performance.
Penn State does have a 5-star recruit from the class of 2022 on their roster.
Drew Aller. Yep,
Yep.
that is correct. Now is he the See, the answer you have to find out. My only concern with Drew Aller, just because I follow recruiting, is he was a 3-star for most of his high school recruiting. He blew up in his senior year, and people started offering him, and then he got rose to a 5-star. I don't know if he's a true 5-star, but I would at least give him a shot and see what he could do. At this point, you're not gonna win the Big Ten, right? So these last couple games, give him a shot and see what he could do. Get ready for next year, or if not, you're gonna
Especially
be. Go for it.
especially next week they play Indiana. I think that's a good game for him to start. At least
Yeah.
play some, not start the whole game, maybe not even start the game, but come in at some point. I think to see how he plays in a Big Ten environment like Indiana, it would be
Yeah,
huge.
I think you have to. I mean, Sean Clifford is just. I know it's like his 6th season, so you probably don't want to bench him, but I mean, you kind of have to at this point. He's not getting the job done. He threw it 47 times, which is great, but 3 interceptions, and it's just very bad, inconsistent passes. He's got to do better. So we'll see if they do that next week. All right, another game. TCU won 41-31 over West Virginia. Pretty good game for TCU. It was kind of a back and forth game until the fourth quarter, where TCU pulled away for the 10-point victory. I thought West Virginia played pretty well. It was at West Virginia, so I thought it'd be a little bit of a challenge. JT Daniels put up a pretty good performance at 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And they had a pretty good rushing attack. Probably one of the better performances against TCU this year. Matt Stuggan didn't look as impressive, but he did have over 341 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So overall, I think TCU just found ways to win. That's what you have to do for undefeated season. You're not going to be perfect every week. So what did you think of this one?
Like you said, going to West Virginia, that's a tough place. Just driving there is going through the mountains, just getting to West Virginia.
I hate that drive, but yes, it's terrible.
Getting to West Virginia is horrible. And so to come out with a victory, against a team that could have more wins in West Virginia. So it's huge, and I think they played well, and I think it's a scrappy game. Like I said, when you're at West Virginia, it's always going to be a scrappy game, and we've seen the top teams already have these games, so it's not really anything different. If we were seeing like a Georgia or Ohio State or Tennessee blowout every team they played, and then TCU barely beating West Virginia, then yeah. But every team in the top has had a scrappy, tough road win game, and that's what this right here was. But it showed that they have, TCU has both a good quarterback and can run the ball. They have their offense has a lot of really good skill players, and I think I would be it's scary to play a team like that.
Nope, for sure. All right. Do you know who TCU plays next week? I don't have it on top of my mind. There.
Texas Tech at home.
Texas Tech. Oh yeah, that's going to be game day, right? Or is that going to be a big noon kickoff for Fox? I think one of those are going to that game. I think so. That should be a pretty interesting matchup. I don't think TCU is going to lose that one, but it should be a nice little battle for them there.
And they play Texas the week after at Texas, and they play at Baylor, and they finish the year at home against Iowa State.
It's interesting. They don't leave Texas the rest of the year, so that's good for them travel wise. Texas is going to be tough because I think Texas is up or down. They even play really good, or they play okay. So,
But I think
see,
Quinn Ewers is a lot better at home. We saw it against
that's
Alabama.
true. That's true. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So that might be their probably toughest game. Last time Baylor obviously could play well. So those games back to back, they might end up losing one of those games, but we'll have to keep an eye on those. All right. I think the craziest Big 12 outcome for me this week was the Kansas State Oklahoma State game. Kansas State winning 48-0. Looking at this game, there were so many just missed tackles by Oklahoma State. There's so many blown coverages, running backs just running free, not be able to be caught, screen passes turning into large plays. It was just a complete domination by Kansas State, which is surprising. I know Oklahoma State's defense is not as good this year, but this giving up 48 points and then the offense, I mean, has been playing pretty well the last couple of years. Did nothing. Spencer Sanders looked terrible. Only 147 yards and an interception. They put in another quarterback. I know it sometimes Gundy, and he threw 7 passes for 16 yards. So nothing more happened there. He threw an interception. So pretty terrible. What did you take away from this one?
I took away Kansas State just looked dominant. Looks like a team that wanted to play and came out and played. And I could see, right now TCU, Kansas State are the top dogs. I can see them playing each other, and I could see that being, probably one of the best championship games we're going to see this year, just because they're both so dominant. And we saw it with Kansas State; they can turn on the Jets. They can, do a lot. And I think it also came down to Oklahoma State's defense has not been the same since losing their defensive coordinator. It really hasn't. We saw it early in the season where they almost lost to Central Michigan. But I just think Kansas State it has that that spark right now. I think if they have that, they can get to their championship game, and they can make some noise with the rest of the games they have left to get a big bowl game. So I would be shocked if Kansas State drops another one just after that dominant win.
Yeah, sure. All right. Cincinnati and UCF. I thought this was just a weird game to watch, but Cincinnati lost 25-21. They just didn't look quite there. They were just something was missing all game, and Central Florida was able to pull this one out. This is the first time Cincinnati has lost an American Conference in a while, a couple of years now. Any thoughts on this particular game?
Not really. I think the biggest thing is they didn't have a run game,
Yeah.
and that really held them down. And they didn't really seem like they could stop a lot of things on defense. Almost, 200. They had over 250 rushing yards. UCF did, and almost 250 passing yards. I just think UCF. It probably should have been a bigger lead game. UCF just dominated in both possession, first downs, total yards, just everything. I think the biggest thing Cincinnati had was their turnover. They caused some turnovers, but I just think that UCF just dominated that whole game. Yeah, it was close, but looking at the stat line, they controlled that game.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed the defensive line of Central Florida played really well against Cincinnati. They had a few sacks, and I saw like Ben Bryant there, the quarterback for Cincinnati. If you look at his stats, he has a rushing for 4 yards for negative 41 yards, 4 carries for negative 41 yards, which obviously is the sack total coming in. But yeah, they dominated. They got a safety in this game too. I mean, they should have been a bigger win, but it was a tough game for Cincinnati. We know this will be a tough year. This is a rebuild. They have to replace a lot, so I think they just need to get those recruits in and get them ready for next year for sure. All right, let's talk about top 10 team Oregon. They won 42-24 against a scrappy Cal team. I know we saw Cal against Notre Dame earlier this year. Cal has a pretty good defense, but they played well against them. They had 42 points, and they Bo Nix again, 412 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he did have 2 interceptions. But I mean, that's against a pretty good defense, so I'm not going to fault him for that. But again, good performance here. What are we thinking of Oregon?
I think Oregon's going to win the Pac-12. I think, yeah, they lost to Georgia, but they've really dominated, and I think they can definitely make a push for that college football playoff. Just if they can win their championship game, they definitely have their own path to it. I think they're so dominant. I think Bo Nix has really found his edge. on everything. He's been running the ball, he's been passing the ball, he's been everywhere, and I think that's really opened up this Oregon team, and made them all of them more comfortable. And their defense is still rocking. Yeah, like you said, Cal's a scrappy team. Also, it's a team. This was a big game that everyone could think that Oregon could have lost to Cal just because it's one of those games coming off a top 10 game prior to then playing a Cal team, and it's away. Always away games are hard, and especially conference games, those are hard as well. So, just a scrappy game all around, but Oregon pulled it out, and Bo Nix is looking good right now.
Yep, he is. So I think the next two games are easier for them. They have Colorado followed by Washington, so easier competition. Washington obviously started off the season pretty well, but they're kind of falling off a bit. But they end the season with Utah. Obviously coming to Oregon, and after the way Utah beat them pretty badly in 2 games last year, you gotta think they have revenge in their mind there, especially with a new quarterback and new coach. But then they play Oregon State to end the season, which is never an easy game. So, I think they have a good chance to win out and win the Pac-12. So we'll see if they get through some of those potential landmines ahead. All right, we'll talk about Wake Forest and Louisville. I didn't realize Wake Forest was a top 10 team coming into this week, but they were listed at number 10. So they lost this one 48-21. This was a really bad performance by Wake Forest. I think at last count they might have had more, but at last count they had 7 turnovers in the second half, and all of them led to points. I think so. Louisville just took advantage of their whether they're playing good defense or terrible offense by Wake Forest. I think Sam Hartman even maybe he got benched a bit. I don't know if he did, but I know there's a Mitch Griffins came in. He didn't play much better. He had an interception as well. So, it was not a great performance here by Wake Forest. What were your thoughts here?
The second half, they looked kind of lost, like you said. So to start the second half, they had an interception for a touchdown. And then they fumbled the ball in their next possession. Threw another interception that resulted in a touchdown. Had a fumble that next possession after the touchdown from Louisville. And that fumble resulted in a Louisville touchdown. So, and then to end the game, to end the game with another interception, they just look kind of, sloppy. I don't know if it's Sam Hartman just getting in his own head. I don't know what it is. He just kind of looked lost. He's different than what we've seen from Sam Hartman, especially this season so far. That Clemson game, they could have won. Just a lot of things you would think that they would beat Louisville, but it just looked like they were lost all around, defense, offense. But it also doesn't help that your offense throws 3 interceptions and puts you in horrible field position for defense. So, and I think it could have been a higher scoring game for Louisville if there was not a lot of turnover on downs. They could kick field goals, things like that. But Wake Forest does look super lost right now, and I think that with this loss, it knocks them out of that ACC, dream.
Yeah, I want to go for like you kind of went for a little bit, but what their third quarter looks like: interception, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, interception, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, putt, interception, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, interception, touchdown. That's pretty terrible. So just wanted to throw it out there that maybe don't do that next game. So, all right. So that's Wake Forest, Louisville. Let's talk about Florida and Georgia. So Florida, Georgia, obviously this is usually a big matchup of the year. This one, I think me and you both felt like this one wasn't going to be as close. I think Jess might have picked the upset here, but we won't rub that in his face too much in the next podcast. But yeah, this one was this is kind of I would say, it's a 22-point victory for Georgia, but Florida did make it close for a little bit, where I think Georgia was up at one point, like 28-3, and then Florida scored like 17 straight points and made it 28-20. And you thought, oh no, this could be a game, and then Georgia just decided to actually start playing and pull this game away. So, what did you think of Georgia's performance here? It's Stetson Bennett, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. pretty good rushing attack with 239 yards. What did you think here?
I think it kind of showed Stetson Bennett's weaknesses. He had 2 interceptions this game, but it also showed that he only has one receiver, and it's his tight end. Um, Bowers had 5 catches for 154 yards. I think if you play, I think if they play an Alabama, even a Kentucky in this any game, if Alabama gets to that SEC championship game, I think it's going to be tough. I think if a team can cover Bowers, it's going to be a little harder for Stetson Bennett. And we've talked about here how we don't really 100% believe Stetson Bennett should be the starter for that team. He's not 100%. I mean, I saw a picture yesterday about Stetson Bennett's 25 and has been in college football forever. How long? And Joe Burrow is 25 and he's been in the NFL for 3 years now. So I don't know what it is. It kind of shows. I think Stetson Bennett is a good quarterback. I just don't think Georgia's going to be able to compete sometimes with teams that could score. And it's going to be a question mark next week with this Tennessee game coming up. If they can outscore a Tennessee team that right now is the best offense in college football and is rolling.
Yep. I think it all comes down to how well that defense can play. At times, this defense has looked really suffocating this year. At times, it maybe not as played as well as it did last year. Obviously, it was historically good last year, so it might not play as good there. But yeah, you're right on the receiving. It seems to be Brock Bowers or bust. Even like the third leading receiver they had was another tight end, Darnell Washington. So they just don't seem to have a lot of receivers. Know that feeling as a Notre Dame fan. That the offense could count on. That could really hurt you in some big games. If they double the tight end and stop the run, what are you going to do? Can he beat you? I mean, they found ways last year to do it, so you got to think they probably have something in their pocket. But it's going to be a tough game next week against Tennessee. All right, let's look at the next game here. Michigan State and Michigan. So you thought this would be close for a little bit. I think at one point it was 13-7. It was 13-7 at halftime. And you thought, okay, this is going to be a pretty good game. But then it was Michigan State didn't score again, and it was 29-7 was the final score. Michigan was a much more physical team, dominated both lines of scrimmage. I'm still not blown away by Michigan. I just feel like J.J. McCarthy, 25 attempts on 167 yards, 1 touchdown. Fine game, but it wasn't like blowing you away. But then you rushed 33 times for Blake Corum for 177 yards. That's just who they are. They want to play like Jim Harbaugh did at Stanford. They want to pound the rock, control the line of scrimmage, and win the game and wear you out. And that's what they did last year. That's what they did this year. So you can't fault them for it. But eventually, they have to open this offense up if they want to win a game in a playoff. And it might be enough to beat Ohio State, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to get past any of the playoff teams. So eventually, you have to take those handcuffs off. But what do you think of this team?
No, you're 100% correct. I think Michigan is relying on their run game right now, and if they get into the college football playoffs, I think if they play whoever, Georgia, Alabama, I mean honestly even Tennessee, I think you can if Tennessee can control this game's going to be it'll be so hard for Michigan just because they can't keep up with an offense as dynamic and fast as Tennessee. But you also have they play at Georgia, that defensive line is not going to let them come in. You play at Clemson. Clemson's defensive line has been one of the best defensive lines in college football, the last couple of years. Alabama also. They have to open up that offense and they have to let J.J. McCarthy play and pass the ball more. And I think they're kind of getting, lucky right now. The next 2 games, they have Rutgers and Nebraska. So I think they can. I think they can, hopefully figure out more pass plays and get J.J. McCarthy more comfortable to throw the ball deep and consistent and on the move and things like that. They do end the season on 2 tough games, and people will say, "Oh, Illinois is not a tough game." I mean, they have the best running back in college football right now, and their defense is consistent.
Yep.
Low scoring games all around, but that'll be tough. And then Ohio State's always tough. Especially at Ohio State, that's going to be tough. But Michigan State, it's the same thing we say. Penn State quarterback, that is the biggest question mark for a lot of Big Ten schools right now is that quarterback.
Yeah.
Dorn has not shown anything. Last year, this year, I don't know how he's the starter on this team. He's so inconsistent. He's like Sean Clifford, but I'd have Sean Clifford start for me right now.
He's not that bad, is he? Come on. He's for at least for 215 yards. I mean, he got a little bit of yardage there. I like Peyton Ford last year when he had a running back, and an offensive line. This year, he doesn't have anything. Like, I feel like he doesn't have a rush. Like, their top rusher had 7 carries for 22 yards. I mean, that's terrible. Their receivers, Keon Coleman, I thought was going to have a monster game. He had 5 receptions, 155 yards and a touchdown. And then they just stopped finding him because Michigan targeted him and they had nobody else that can get the ball. So it was kind of just terrible performance. But yeah, Michigan, I'm interested to see how they look against Illinois and Ohio State if they open this offense up at all. But good win by Michigan here. But we'd be remiss if we did not mention if you didn't see it, the big fight that happened in the tunnel. As obviously there's one tunnel in Michigan, and there was a couple Michigan players. I guess they got jumped by Michigan State players. I don't know the whole context of that. Those Michigan players were talking smack to these guys, but you saw some videos out there where there's like 7 or 8 guys jumping one guy. They got some pretty good licks on him too. So they have to fix that. I mean, you can't just have the one tunnel where everybody's pushing through and that kind of stuff's going to happen. So I saw police were there investigating everything. So I guess there'll be more to come on this situation. All right, let's go about the next game here. Let's talk about Tennessee and Kentucky. Never good matchup. I think I even said Kentucky could win this game, and I was definitely wrong in that piece. So Tennessee won 44-6. And if I'm tired of people talking about Will Levis, potential number 1 overall quarterback in the NFL draft, this guy is not. He had 98 yards passing, 3 interceptions against a Tennessee team that has a decent defense, but not like a dominant defense like he showed them to be. I was very disappointed in Kentucky's performance here, but that Kentucky defense didn't slow down Tennessee at all. It was 27-6 at half, 44-6 at the end of the game. So what did you think of Tennessee? And also, I see a lot of people mentioning Tennessee as like kind of that flash in a bottle like LSU. Do you think that's what we're seeing here? Is Tennessee the next LSU?
I think so. I definitely can see that. Hendon Hooker's a senior. I can see him going to the draft this year, and then them losing a lot of receivers. I can see them all just switching. Like LSU, they lost everyone basically on that team. They were all veterans. They all played together. They all played great. I could even see Jalen Hyatt. He's a junior going to the draft. So their top receivers, their top quarterback, it could leave. But, it's not about next year right now. It's about Tennessee, being undefeated still. Tennessee going to Georgia next week. It's not about next year. It's about, the next day for Tennessee right now. And, if they can finish strong and finish undefeated, it opens up a lot of things for Tennessee, recruiting wise, just a lot of things. So, but they look dominant all game.
Yep.
I think they're really if I played them and win the coin toss, I would not defer. I think keeping the ball, start the game, really might hinder Tennessee enough that they slow the game down. But if you give the ball to Tennessee early in this game and they can control the speed and everything in the game, it was 7-0 to start the game. Then Kentucky scored 7-6. But after that, Tennessee blew off the doors the second half, the end of the first half, and we're up 27-6. In the second half, their defense held Kentucky to nothing, and their offense kept rolling. They dropped another almost 20 points the second half. Their offense, if they can control the game, they will blow out any team. So in my eyes, you don't give them the ball to start the game.
Yeah, you keep that ball away from them as much as possible. I think the key to beating Tennessee, I think, is going to be a team that can really pound the rock, really win a time of possession, and you kind of slow the game down. But yeah, if you let Tennessee control it and they score at will, then it's a shootout. You're never going to win a shootout against this team. That's what Alabama tried to do, and you can't do it. So I think what you're going to see next week with Georgia's going to pound the rock, and they're going to try to slow this game down, keep it out of Tennessee's hands, and try to win it in a really slow, slogging fashion. So we'll see if that works next week, or if Tennessee can control the game. There was a bunch of other games, so I'm just going to go through them really quick, and you give me your thoughts, Jordan. So we talked about Illinois a little bit, but they won 26-9 over Nebraska. Chase Brown over 100 yards on the ground. Really dominant performance by the running back there. Quarterback played really well as also. Missouri had a good victory against number 25 South Carolina, 23-10. South Carolina looked terrible in this game. They've been really hit or miss. Some games they look okay, some games they just look terrible. I just don't know what to think of them. USC won 45-37 against Arizona. That was kind of a game you didn't think was going to be that close. There was some really terrible officiating in this game. I would encourage you guys to look it up and see some of the calls. But USC did win this one by 8, so they're kind of just slogging around. I think their defense is starting to get away from a little bit, not playing well. So we'll see how that does against other opponents. But, if anybody can run the ball well, I think they might have a shot to beat USC. Mississippi beat Texas A&M 31-28. Texas A&M did start their 5-star quarterback in this game, so the offense looked improved, but the defense still looked terrible, and they were really, it took a while to get going in the second half, and so Ole Miss was able to pull away and get this victory. North Carolina continues to look pretty good, 42-24 winners over Pittsburgh. Again, North Carolina's only loss has been Notre Dame this year, so they have a chance to go to an ACC title game. You never know. They have a great offense. You never know. They might be able to go in there and sneak out a victory against Clemson. But I don't know if they'll be able to get back to the playoff picture at this point after getting blown up by Notre Dame. But we'll see. Crazier things have happened. And then UCLA beat Stanford 38-13. So Stanford's run there looking pretty good has ended. Still can't believe Notre Dame lost to them. But good victory for UCLA there. So any thoughts on those games? Anything stand out to you, Jordan?
Why Texas A&M didn't start their 5-star to start the year? They probably would be undefeated right now. They probably would be Alabama. I feel
bad at least after the first loss, go ahead from out there. I mean, I don't know. That's crazy.
I feel bad that he played a Ole Miss team to start his first start. Just Ole Miss, it's good this year. I mean, not the best, but they're good enough to win. They've only lost one game, and it was last week. So, why wouldn't you throw him in earlier? That's just my thinking. It's he's really shown in this game. The USC game really showed. I mean, their weaknesses for USC, and Arizona exploited them early. Also, Pac-12 is, in my eyes, has always been the weakest officiating crew. Yeah. So I'm not surprised with that. I'm more surprised that Missouri beat, South Carolina. I really think Spencer Rattler's rattled still from, everyone thinking he was Heisman favorite early. It seems to me that he's so rattled from that still that he hasn't turned around his, play at all.
Yeah. He was so hyped coming out of high school too. He was like the number one quarterback, and everybody was hyping him up. And then he started playing well, Heisman hype, and then it fell off so quick for him. I feel bad for the kid.
But all the other games, I was not as surprised. I just want to throw out UConn beat Boston College, 13-3. So.
And Boston College is terrible. Watch Notre Dame lose that game to Boston College. I'm just saying.
Quit.
I would quit too. That was interesting performances there. But so obviously, guys, this is Sunday. We're going to be coming back Tuesday. The first playoff rankings will be Tuesday, so we'll be coming at you as they are announced. We'll be talking about them, giving our instant analysis of the top 25. Also preview next week's games for you guys. So we'll be sending that out there on Tuesday. But before we get started, Jordan, any thoughts on who you think the top 4 teams will be in the upcoming playoff picture? Who would you say the committee you think will put in that top 4?
I'm thinking Tennessee should be number 1. Tennessee has shown dominance, has beaten ranked team after ranked team, beat Pitt, who was ranked early in the season, beat Florida, who was ranked during their game, beat LSU, who was ranked, beat Alabama, who was ranked, just blew out a Kentucky team that is ranked. If they don't put them as number one, I don't know what to say. I think Tennessee right now is the most complete team right now, can show they can dominate against good teams, and the number one team, Georgia, right now almost lost to Missouri. So,
Yep.
But I think it'd be Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee. I'm still, I don't know. I'm gonna throw this TCU. Give me TCU at the 4th spot. I think they look dominant right now too. So
yeah, I agree.
give
I
me TCU.
mean, they're in my top 4 last week, my ranking. So I definitely agree with you there. I feel like the committee will probably put either obviously Michigan or Clemson in because they're the bigger name, right?
Yeah.
So they'll put them in. And I don't know out of Michigan, Clemson, who's more deserving. Clemson, I would have thought they played better teams, but then those teams are starting to really struggle. Michigan, their top opponent was Penn State, and Penn State's struggling. So my guess would be probably they'll put Michigan number 4, Clemson number 5, TCU number 6, or they'll probably put Alabama number 6 just because it's Alabama. But yeah, that's it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Interesting to see the whole top 25. I think last year we were surprised there were some 3-loss teams in there, the top 25 last year. So we'll see if that's the case this year. Because usually they try to put like the top teams, whatever win-loss record doesn't matter, into this.
I don't think we'll see a 3-loss team this year, and I just don't think any 3-loss team is deserving. Last year, yes, there were some 3-loss teams that had really like I'm pretty sure Arkansas at this point was a 3-loss team, but their schedule was like disgusting, stupid.
Yeah, if your 3 losses are just like the top 5, I mean that says one thing, if you looked good against them. But if your 3 losses, like no offense Notre Dame, but if your 3 losses against Stanford and Marshall, then you should be in there. But
Texas maybe.
I don't want to see Texas in there. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve the hype. They need somebody else to get some new blood in there. I don't care who it is, but somebody else. So,
but no, the coaches poll doesn't have any 3-loss teams in it. So
yeah, get somebody.
I think the coaches poll is pretty close.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. But we'll like I said, we'll look forward to bringing that to you guys on Tuesday. We'll have we'll have a full slate of hosts here, so we'll have 4 people on giving you guys our instant analysis. So look forward to bringing that to you guys on Tuesday. But till then, make sure to follow us on In the Flat Pod on Twitter and our podcast for our podcast information. And then our website, InTheFlatPodcast.com, we'll be posting some articles. We'll do our top 10 again on Monday. Have some more articles coming your way throughout the week as well. So we look forward to bringing those to you guys. And until next week, talk to you later. Bye.